Today is the 7th of September 2010, and this is the 49th time we are speaking of the Majjhima Nikaya Suttas. Tonight we come to another very important sutta, number 119, Kaya Gata Sati Sutta, Mindfulness of the Body, or recollection of the body. Thus have I heard. On one occasion, the Blessed One was living at Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's park. Now a number of monks were sitting in the assembly hall where they had met together on returning from their alms round after their meal, when this discussion arose among them. It is wonderful, friends, it is marvelous how it has been said by the Blessed One who knows and sees, Arahant Sammasambuddha, that mindfulness of the body, when developed and cultivated, is of great fruit and great benefit. However, the discussion was interrupted, for the Blessed One rose from meditation when it was evening, went to the assembly hall and sat down on a seat made ready. Then he addressed the monks thus, Monks, for what discussion are you sitting together here now, and what was your discussion that was interrupted? Here, Venerable Sir, we were sitting in the assembly hall where we had met together on returning from our alms round after our meal, when this discussion arose among us. It is wonderful, friends, it is marvelous how it has been said by the Blessed One who knows and sees, Arahant Sammasambuddha, that mindfulness of the body, when developed and cultivated, is of great fruit and great benefit. This was our discussion, Venerable Sir, that was interrupted when the Blessed One arrived. And how, monks, is mindfulness of the body developed and cultivated so that it is of great fruit and great benefit? Here a monk, gone to the forest or to the root of a tree or to an empty hut, sits down, having folded his legs crosswise, set his body erect, and established mindfulness in front of him. Ever mindful, he breathes in, mindful, he breathes out. Breathing in long, he understands, I breathe in long. Or breathing out long, he understands, I breathe out long. Breathing in short, he understands, I breathe in short. Or breathing out short, he understands, I breathe out short. He trains thus, I shall breathe in, experiencing the whole body of breath. He trains thus, I shall breathe out, experiencing the whole body of breath. He trains thus, I shall breathe in, tranquilizing the bodily volition. He trains thus, I shall breathe out, tranquilizing the bodily volition. As he abides thus diligent, ardent, and resolute, his memories and intentions based on the household life are abandoned. With their abandoning, his mind becomes steadied internally, quieted, brought to singleness, and concentrated. That is how a monk develops mindfulness of the body. Stop it for a moment. So here the Buddha says, talks about this mindfulness of the body, and the first body, the first object of meditation it discusses here is anapanasati, mindfulness of the breath, which we went through last night. And the Buddha likes to talk about this because this is his own object of meditation, his particular method of meditation. Here this last part is quite interesting. He says, as he abides thus diligent, ardent, and resolute, his memories and intentions based on the household life are abandoned. And with their abandoning, his mind becomes steadied internally, quieted, brought to singleness, and concentrated. This one, when a monk first goes forth, there is a lot of memories based on the household life that comes to disturb him. And if he's not able to control this, bring this under control, very often a monk cannot stay long in robes. He will disrobe if he cannot fix this problem of being agitated by all these memories and all this. As the Buddha says, that family ties are extremely strong. So especially in the beginning, when a person first goes forth, I can say from my own experience, for 1 year, these memories kept haunting me, all these ties. So it was only after 1 year that slowly I got used to it, and it wasn't so much agitated by it. So here the Buddha says that if we concentrate on meditation, that's the way to quiet our mind, make our mind more tranquil. Then we don't think so much. All this agitation in the mind is because of the habit of thinking. The Buddha says a normal person has this tendency for the mind to proliferate, which he calls papancha, proliferation of the mind. One thought becomes 10, 10 thoughts become 100, 100 thoughts become 1,000. Multiplies very fast. There's nothing faster than the mind. So if you have a lot of attachments based on the home life, then all these memories come up. Again, monks, when walking, a monk understands, I am walking. When standing, he understands, I am standing. When sitting, he understands, I am sitting. When lying down, he understands, I am lying down. Or he understands accordingly however his body is disposed. As he abides thus diligent, ardent and resolute, his memories and intentions based on the household life are abandoned. That too is how a monk develops mindfulness of the body. Stop here for a moment. So here the Buddha is talking about this mindfulness of the four postures. So the point is to not allow the mind to stray. Whenever the mind strays, we become agitated. We are disturbed. So we have to keep our mindfulness always on the object of meditation. The Buddha always says that we should put our attention only on four things. Either it's the body, or on our feelings, or on our mind, or on the Dhamma that we have learned. Again, monks, a monk is one who acts in full awareness when going forward and returning, who acts in full awareness when looking ahead and looking away, who acts in full awareness when flexing and extending his limbs, who acts in full awareness when wearing his robes and carrying his outer robe and bowl, who acts in full awareness when eating, drinking, consuming food and tasting, who acts in full awareness when defecating and urinating, who acts in full awareness when walking, standing, sitting, falling asleep, waking up, talking and keeping silent. As he abides thus diligent, ardent and resolute, his memories and intentions based on the household life are abandoned. That too is how a monk develops mindfulness of the body. So this is also about mindfulness, mindfulness of whatever you do. So as I mentioned just now, is to be either putting your attention on these four objects of sati, recollection, or you're mindful of whatever you do. Again, monks, a monk reviews this same body up from the soles of the feet and down from the top of the hair, bounded by skin, as full of many kinds of impurity. Thus, in this body there are head hairs, body hairs, nails, teeth, skin, flesh, sinew, bone, marrow, kidney, heart, liver, diaphragm, spleen, lung, large intestine, small intestine, contents of the stomach, feces. There's one that in this sutta is not here. After feces is brain, bile, phlegm, pus, blood, sweat, fat, tear, grease, spittle, snot, all of the joint, urine. Just as though there were a bag with an opening at both ends full of many sorts of grain, such as hill rice, red rice, beans, peas, millet and white rice. And a man with good eyes were to open it and review it thus: this is hill rice, this is red rice, these are beans, these are peas, this is millet, this is white rice. So too a monk reviews this same body as full of many kinds of impurity thus: in this body there are head hairs, body hairs, etc. As he abides thus diligent, ardent and resolute, his memories and intentions based on the household life are abandoned. That too is how a monk develops mindfulness of the body. Stop here for a moment. This meditation on the 32 parts of the body It is also known as the meditation on foulness or unattractiveness of the body. Normally, we are so used to seeing the outside of a body. When we look at any body, we either say it's handsome or beautiful or ugly, just based on the outside. As they say, beauty is skin deep. So we don't see the inside. But when we recite these parts of the body frequently, then we remember all these parts of the body. So then when we look at the body, these parts of the body come up, and the body doesn't become so attractive anymore. So this meditation, there are two purposes. One is to reduce this sensual lust, and another one is to build up our concentration. So this chanting of these 32 parts of the body, either we do slow or we do fast. If we do slow, then we contemplate one by one these parts of the body. And that is more of an insight meditation. And if we do fast, then we don't think about the parts of the body. We just chant quickly, head, hair, body hair, nails, teeth, skin, flesh, sinew, bone, marrow, kidney, heart, like that. So that is a concentration exercise to keep our mind from running. And if you want to chant slowly and understand the parts, then you can do like what I did. Ask somebody to go and buy the pig organs, because a lot of the pig organs are very similar to human organs, like the heart, the lung, the spleen, and all these things. So you take those organs, you look at it, you know what it looks like, then you touch it, you know it's hard or soft, all this. So that when you chant one by one slowly, you can picture it, you can understand you can understand it better, so it's easier to picture it. So this meditation, in fact this meditation on the 32 parts of the body is the first meditation that the Buddha taught after enlightenment. When the Buddha taught his disciples meditation, this was the first meditation he taught them. So I was thinking, how come the Buddha himself practiced anapanasati, mindfulness of the breath? How come he taught the 32 parts of the body which he did not practice? So I thought probably a Sammasambuddha, if he wants to teach, he will probably look into the past, how the previous Sammasambuddhas taught. And maybe all the Sammasambuddhas teach this meditation, because we are so attached to the body, attached to lust, sensual desire, all this. So it's very important to cut this. So also to see the body, besides being not so attractive, to see there's no self in the body, just composed of parts. So that's why, because it's a very important meditation, probably all Sammasambuddhas teach this as the first meditation. Only later, when remember Ananda requested, then he taught Anapanasati. So this is a very important meditation. Again, monks, a monk reviews this same body, however it is placed, however disposed, as consisting of elements thus. In this body there are the earth element, water element, fire element, and air element. Just as though a skilled butcher or his apprentice had killed a cow and was seated at the crossroads with it cut up into pieces, so too a monk reviews this same body, however it is placed, however disposed, as consisting of elements thus. In this body there are the earth element, the water element, the fire element, and the air element. As he abides thus diligent, ardent, and resolute, his memories and intentions connected with the household life are abandoned. That too is how a monk develops mindfulness of the body. Stop here for a moment. So here another meditation method is to consider the body as made up of the four great elements, earth, water, fire, wind, or air. And as I mentioned before, these four elements refers to the perception of our body. The earth element refers to the hardness, perception of hardness. Whatever is hard is considered the earth element. So inside the body, like the bones are hard. In fact, the first half of the 32 parts of the body deals with the earth element, the organs, like head hair, body hair, nails, teeth, skin, flesh, sinew, bone marrow, maybe not so hard, kidney, liver, spleen, lung, and all these things. So the earth element refers to the elements which are hard, or relatively hard. The water element refers to the blood, the tears, spittle, snot, all of the joint, urine, and all that. Fire element refers to the heat in us. The heat helps to digest our food and make things mellow, age, and all that. The air element is the wind element in us that makes the gases move in our bowels, intestines, that makes the blood flow, etc. So this is another type of meditation on the body, looking into the elements of the body. Again, monks, as though he were to see a corpse thrown aside in a charnel ground, 1, 2, or 3 days dead, bloated, livid, and oozing matter. A monk compares this same body with it thus. This body too is of the same nature. It will be like that. It is not exempt from that fate. As he abides thus diligent, the memories and intentions based on the household life are abandoned. That too is how a monk develops mindfulness of the body. Again, as though he were to see a corpse thrown aside in a charnel ground, being devoured by crows, hawks, vultures, dogs, jackals, or various kinds of worms. A monk compares this same body with it thus. This body too is of the same nature. It will be like that. It is not exempt from that fate. As he abides thus diligent, etc., that too is how a monk develops mindfulness of the body. Again, as though he were to see a corpse thrown aside in a charnel ground, a skeleton with flesh and blood held together with sinews, and then later a fleshless skeleton smeared with blood held together with sinews, and later a skeleton without flesh and blood held together with sinews, and later a disconnected bone scattered in all directions, here a hand bone, there a foot bone, here a shin bone, there a thigh bone, here a hip bone, there a back bone, here a rib bone, there a breast bone, here an arm bone, there a shoulder bone, here a neck bone, there a jaw bone, here a tooth, there the skull. A monk compares this same body with it thus. This body too is of the same nature. It will be like that. It is not exempt from that fate. As he abides thus diligent, etc., that too is how a monk develops mindfulness of the body. Again, as though he were to see a corpse thrown aside in a charnel ground, bones bleached white, the color of shells, bones heaped up more than a year old, bones rotted and crumbled to dust. A monk compares this same body with it thus. This body too is of the same nature. It will be like that. It is not exempt from that fate. As he abides thus diligent, etc., etc., that too is how a monk develops mindfulness of the body. So this part is about the different stages of corpse decay, starting with a fresh corpse, about 3 days dead. If you consider, I think some of you have seen some people who have died. If you have gone for funerals, you would have seen the body in a coffin, just like here, bloated, livid, oozing matter. So smelly, but of course nowadays they don't make they put all the dry ice and all that. It's not smelly and all that. Not bloated and all that. But we consider like sometimes a dog has died by the roadside. Then you see slowly becomes bloated. Then after a few days, the skin will will break, and then you see all the matter oozing out, and slowly you can see all the maggots, full of maggots. So the human corpse is also like that. So here is described all the various stages of decay of a corpse. And the Buddha advises to consider that our body is one day is going to face the same fate. We cannot run away from this fate. So it's because the body is going to die one day. So the Buddha is telling us, don't be attached to it. If you are attached to it, then either your own body or the body of someone else, and when it dies, you are going to suffer because of attachment. This meditation, very few people want to practice this meditation, but it's a very good meditation to see non-self, to see that this body is so impermanent. One day is here, one day is no more around. So it's a very, very, very good meditation to understand anatta, not self. Again, monks, quite secluded from sensual pleasures, secluded from unwholesome states, a monk enters upon and abides in the first jhana, which is accompanied by applied and sustained thought, with delight and pleasure born of seclusion. He makes the delight and pleasure born of seclusion drench, steep, fill and pervade this body, so that there is no part of his whole body unpervaded by the delight and pleasure born of seclusion. Just as a skilled bathman or a bathman's apprentice heaps bath powder in a metal basin and sprinkling it gradually with water, kneads it till the moisture wets his ball of bath powder, soaks it and pervades it inside and out, yet the ball itself does not ooze. So too a monk makes the delight and pleasure born of seclusion drench, steep, fill and pervade this body, so that there is no part of his whole body unpervaded by the delight and pleasure born of seclusion. As he abides thus diligent, etc., that too is how a monk develops mindfulness of the body. Stop here for a moment. There are not many suttas which gives this very detailed description of how to practice the first jhana. After getting the first jhana, the Buddha says you have to make the piti and sukha drench, steep, fill and pervade the whole body. So it shows when a person is in the first jhana, he can incline his attention to the body and make the piti and sukha drench and steep and fill the body. So it's not that when you entered the jhana, you are not aware of the body. Initially, you might not pay attention to the body, but as the Buddha says here, you can incline your intention to the body and make the piti and sukha drench and steep and fill the body. This is a very important instruction that nowadays you find is not taught by meditation teachers. That's why I always say the Buddha is the best teacher. All his instructions in the suttas are complete and perfect. Again, monks, with the stilling of applied and sustained thought, a monk enters upon and abides in the second jhana, which has self-confidence and singleness of mind without applied and sustained thought, with delight and pleasure born of concentration. Stop here for a moment. Last night I was trying to find this part actually. Actually, it says here in the second jhana, there is self-confidence and singleness of mind. In other words, this unification of mind in the second jhana is much more pronounced than in the first jhana. In the first jhana, you still have this vitakka and vichara, applied and sustained thought. But in the second jhana, vitakka and vichara is eliminated. There is no thought at all. There's unification of mind. Although there is awareness. He makes the delight and pleasure born of concentration. You see, this delight and rapture and pleasure is born of concentration. Drench, steep, fill and pervade this body, so that there is no part of his whole body unpervaded by the delight and pleasure born of concentration. Just as though there were a lake whose waters welled up from below, and it had no inflow from east, west, north, or south, and would not be replenished from time to time by showers of rain. Then the cool fount of water welling up in the lake would make the cool water drench, steep, fill, and pervade the lake, so that there would be no part of the whole lake unpervaded by cool water. So too a monk makes a delight and pleasure born of concentration drench, steep, fill, and pervade this body, so that there is no part of his whole body unpervaded by the delight and pleasure born of concentration. As he abides thus diligent, etc., that too is how a monk develops mindfulness of the body. Again, monks, with the steep fading away as well of delight, a monk abides in equanimity and mindful and fully aware. Still feeling pleasure with the body, he enters upon and abides in the third jhana, on account of which noble ones announced, he has a pleasant abiding, who has equanimity and is mindful. He makes the pleasure divested of delight, drench, steep, fill, and pervade this body, so that there is no part of his whole body unpervaded by the pleasure divested of delight. Just as in a pond of blue or white or red lotuses, some lotuses that are born and grow in the water thrive immersed in the water without rising out of it, and cool water drenches, steeps, fills, and pervades them to their tips and their roots, so that there is no part of all those lotuses unpervaded by cool water. So too a monk makes the pleasure divested of delight drench, steep, fill, and pervade this body, so that there is no part of his whole body unpervaded by the pleasure divested of delight. As he abides thus diligent, etc., that too is how a monk develops mindfulness of the body. Again, monks, with the abandoning of pleasure and pain, and with the previous disappearance of joy and grief, a monk enters upon and abides in the fourth jhana, which has neither pain nor pleasure, and utter purity of mindfulness and equanimity. He sits pervading this body with a pure, bright mind, so that there is no part of his whole body unpervaded by the pure, bright mind. Just as though a man were sitting covered from head down with a white cloth, so that there would be no part of his whole body not covered by the white cloth, so too a monk sits pervading this body with a pure, bright mind, so that there is no part of his body unpervaded by the pure, bright mind. As he abides thus diligent, ardent, and resolute, his memories and intentions based on the household life are abandoned. With their abandoning, his mind becomes steadied internally, quieted, brought to singleness and concentrated. That too is how a monk develops mindfulness of the body. Stop here for a moment. So here you see the difference of the fourth jhana from the others. Is that in this state of the fourth jhana, this brightness pervades the whole body and mind. And there is a sutta in the Anguttara Nikaya, I think, where the Buddha said, the most ideal condition for insight to arise is a mind cultivated until it is bright. When a mind, like in this fourth jhana, is cultivated until it is bright, all the kilesas, all the hindrances are totally eliminated at that point. So that's why in another sutta the Buddha says that a person who attains the fourth jhana, he understands everything that he needs to understand so clearly. His mind is so bright and so he can see very clearly things as they really are. Monks, anyone who has developed and cultivated mindfulness of the body has included within himself whatever wholesome states there are that partake of true knowledge. Just as anyone who has extended his mind over the great ocean has included within it whatever streams there are that flow into the ocean, so too anyone who has developed and cultivated mindfulness of the body has included within himself whatever wholesome states there are that partake of true knowledge. Monks, when anyone has not developed and cultivated mindfulness of the body, Mara finds an opportunity and a support in him. Suppose a man were to throw a heavy stone ball upon a mound of wet clay. What do you think, monks? Would that heavy ball find entry into that mound of wet clay? Yes, Venerable Sir. So too monks, when anyone has not developed and cultivated mindfulness of the body, Mara finds an opportunity and a support in him. Suppose there were a dry, sapless piece of wood, and a man came with an upper fire stick, thinking, I shall light the fire, I shall produce heat. What do you think, monks? Could the man light a fire and produce heat by rubbing the dry, sapless piece of wood with an upper fire stick? Yes, Venerable Sir. So too monks, when anyone has not developed and cultivated mindfulness of the body, Mara finds an opportunity and a support in him. Suppose there were a hollow, empty water jug set out on a stand, and a man came with a supply of water. What do you think, monks? Could the man pour the water into the jug? Yes, Venerable Sir. So too monks, when anyone has not developed and cultivated mindfulness of the body, Mara finds an opportunity and a support in him. Stop here for a moment. So here the Buddha says, if someone has not developed mindfulness of the body to the extent of attaining the jhanas, then his mind is very weak, and Mara can find an opportunity to overcome him. Mara is always looking for an opportunity and always tempting us with the 5 chords of sensual pleasure. That is Mara's bait. Beautiful forms to see, sounds to hear, etc. Monks, when anyone has developed and cultivated mindfulness of the body, Mara cannot find an opportunity or a support in him. Suppose a man were to throw a light ball of string at a door panel made entirely of hard wood. What do you think, monks? Would that light ball of string find entry through that door panel made entirely of hard wood? No, Venerable Sir. So too monks, when anyone has developed and cultivated mindfulness of the body, Mara cannot find an opportunity or a support in him. Suppose there were a wet, sappy piece of wood, and a man came with an upper fire stick, thinking, I shall light a fire, I shall produce heat. What do you think, monks? Could that man light a fire and produce heat by taking the upper fire stick and rubbing it against the wet, sappy piece of wood? No, Venerable Sir. So too monks, when anyone has developed and cultivated mindfulness of the body, Mara cannot find an opportunity or a support in him. Suppose set out on a stand there were a water jug full of water right up to the brim so that crows could drink from it, and a man came with a supply of water. What do you think, monks? Could the man pour the water into the jug? No, Venerable Sir. So too monks, when anyone has developed and cultivated mindfulness of the body, Mara cannot find an opportunity or a support in him. So here the Buddha is saying that when we develop mindfulness of the body to that extent mentioned here, having attained the jhanas, then Mara cannot overcome you with all the bait. Monks, when anyone has developed and cultivated mindfulness of the body, then when he inclines his mind towards realizing any state that may be realized by direct knowledge, he attains the ability to witness any aspect therein, there being a suitable basis. Suppose, set out on a stand, there were a water jug full of water right up to the brim so that crows could drink from it. Whenever a strong man tips it, would water come out? Yes, Venerable Sir. So too monks, when anyone has developed and cultivated mindfulness of the body, then when he inclines his mind towards realizing any state that may be realized by direct knowledge, he attains the ability to witness any aspect therein, there being a suitable basis. Suppose there were a square pond on a level ground, surrounded by an embankment, full of water right up to the brim so that crows could drink from it. Whenever a strong man loosens the embankment, would water come out? Yes, Venerable Sir. So too monks, when anyone has developed and cultivated mindfulness of the body, he attains the ability to witness any aspect therein, there being a suitable basis. Suppose there were a chariot on even ground at the crossroads, harnessed to thoroughbreds, waiting with goat lying ready, so that a skilled trainer, a charioteer of horses to be tamed, might mount it, and taking the reins in his left hand and the goad in his right hand, might drive out and back by any road whenever he likes. So too monks, when anyone has developed and cultivated mindfulness of the body, etc., he attains the ability to witness any aspect therein, there being a suitable basis. So here the Buddha says, if a person has developed mindfulness of the body, then he can attain whatever knowledge he wants to attain, provided there is a suitable basis. And this suitable basis must be the 4 jhanas. Because in the suttas, the Buddha always says, when a person has attained the 4 jhanas, the 4 rupa jhanas, then if he wants to attain the various abhinyas, the higher knowledges, or the psychic powers, he can attain them up to destruction of the asavas, which means liberation. Monks, when mindfulness of the body has been repeatedly practiced, developed, cultivated, used as a vehicle, used as a basis, established, consolidated, and well undertaken, these 10 benefits may be expected. What 10? One becomes a conqueror of discontent, and discontent does not conquer oneself. One abides overcoming discontent whenever it arises. I'll stop here for a moment. This discontent, you can see it like when a person first renounces, then all that memories and intentions based on the home life surface, then he's very agitated, very discontented. But if he practices very hard mindfulness of the body, then he overcomes this discontent. Number 2, one becomes a conqueror of fear and dread, and fear and dread do not conquer oneself. One abides overcoming fear and dread whenever they arise. Just earlier we read one sutta, how the fool, fear arises in the fool, not in the wise man. And I mentioned that this fear is because the fear is inside of him, that it surfaces whenever the outside conditions are right. So that is partly because the mind is not strong. The mind has fear, the mind is agitated. But if a person practices this mindfulness of the body and the mind becomes one-pointed, then the mind calms down and fear and dread can be overcome because a mind that is one-pointed is a very strong mind, is a very solid mind. It's not easily moved by outside conditions. Number 3, one bears cold and heat, hunger and thirst, and contact with gadflies, mosquitoes, wind and sun, and creeping things. One endures ill-spoken, unwelcome words and arisen bodily feelings that are painful, racking, sharp, piercing, disagreeable, distressing and menacing to life. Stop here for a moment. So here, as I mentioned just now, when the mind has attained one-pointedness, then it is stable, it is not easily shaken by outside conditions, all these hunger, thirst, unpleasant words, etc., pain, all this, you can stand much better. That's why I usually tell lay people, in fact I tell everybody if they can, early in the morning when they wake up to practice some meditation. If they practice some meditation, they get a bit of concentration, especially lay people when they go and work, they get a lot of pressure, they get a lot of stress, they get a lot of scolding and all that. And they can take it much better. The mind is more calm. Number 4, one obtains at will without trouble or difficulty the 4 jhanas that constitute the higher mind and provide a pleasant abiding here and now. So this number 4 refers to the 4 jhanas. And after this, the Buddha talks about the 6 abhinya, higher knowledges. One wields the number 5. One wields the various kinds of psychic power. One body becoming many bodies, etc. One can fly like a bird, etc. And then number 6, with the divine or heavenly ear element, which is purified and surpasses the human, one hears both kinds of sounds, the divine and the human, those that are far as well as near. Number 7, one understands the minds of other beings, of other persons, having encompassed them with one's own mind. One understands a mind affected by lust as affected by lust, etc. Number 8, one recollects one's manifold past lives, that is 1 birth, 2 births, 3, 10, 100, 1,000 cycles of world system, etc. Thus, with the aspects and particulars, one recollects one's manifold past lives. With the divine eye, which is purified and surpasses the human, one sees beings passing away and reappearing, inferior and superior, fair and ugly, fortunate and unfortunate, and one understands how beings pass on according to their actions. 10. By realizing for oneself with direct knowledge, one here and now enters upon and abides in the liberation by mind and liberation by wisdom that are taintless with the destruction of the taints. Monks, when mindfulness of the body has been repeatedly practiced, developed, cultivated, used as a vehicle, used as a basis, established, consolidated, and well undertaken, these 10 benefits may be expected. That is what the Blessed One said. The monks were satisfied and delighted in the Blessed One's words. That's the end of the sutta. Just to recap, when the Buddha says mindfulness of the body, here the Buddha gives a few examples. Breathing is one, because the Buddha says the breath is a type of body. And if a person practices this meditation on the breath diligently, when the mind becomes one-pointed and concentrated, and the memories and intentions based on the household life fade away. And then the next one is the posture, to be aware of the 4 postures, whether you are walking or standing or sitting or lying down. Always be mindful of your posture without allowing the mind to stray and think. The third one is mindfulness of whatever we do, whether we are eating or drinking or stretching our hand or wearing our clothes, etc. And the next one is the 32 parts of the body, to recite the parts of the body and to consider one by one. That's one way, or to recite fast and use it as a concentration exercise. And the next one is to consider the body as made out of the 4 great elements, earth, water, fire, wind. And after that is the contemplation of the corpse, to consider how one day, not too far, not too distant future, our body will become a corpse and become bloated, blue-black, oozing matter and all that, stinking. So after that, it will decay, and the flesh will slowly disappear. Slowly, the sinews also will break up, and then the bones start to go different directions. And after a few years, even the bones also will crumble to dust. And then after that, attaining the jhanas by practicing unremitting mindfulness on one object all the time, that will bring you to the jhanas. Then if a person can attain 4 jhanas, then the Buddha says, then you want to incline your mind to realize whatever knowledge you want, you can. And lastly, the Buddha talks about the 10 benefits of constantly practicing mindfulness of the body. Majjhima Nikaya 120, Sankarupapatti Sutta. Sankarupapatti Sutta. Here it says reappearance by aspiration. This Sankarupapatti consists of 2 words, Sankara and Upapatti. Sankara means volition or intention, and Upapatti means rebirth. So another translation is rebirth by volition, taking rebirth. Where you want to be reborn according to your volition or intention. Thus have I heard. On one occasion, the Blessed One was living at Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's park. There he addressed the monks thus, "Monks, Venerable Sir," they replied. The Blessed One said, "Monks, I shall teach you reappearance or rebirth in accordance with one's aspiration. Listen and attend closely to what I shall say." "Yes, Venerable Sir," the monks replied. The Blessed One said, "Hear, monks, a monk possesses faith, virtue, learning, generosity, and wisdom. He thinks, oh, that on the dissolution of the body after death, I might reappear in the company of well-to-do nobles. He fixes his mind on that, establishes it, develops it. These aspirations and this abiding of his, thus developed and cultivated, lead to his reappearance or rebirth there. This monk is the path, the way that leads to reappearance there. Again, the monk possesses faith, etc. He thinks, that on the dissolution of the body after death, might reappear in the company of well-to-do Brahmins or in the company of well-to-do householders. He fixes his mind on that. This monk is the path, the way that leads to reappearance there. Stop here for a moment. Here the Buddha is talking about if someone wants to be reborn as a high caste human being. In India they have 4 castes. The first 3 are considered quite high caste. One is the nobles, a warrior caste. The second is the Brahmin caste. The third is the merchant class. Here he says householders. So if you want to be reborn in this high caste human birth, the Buddha says these few things are necessary: faith, virtue, learning, generosity, and wisdom. Out of these 5 things mentioned here, when we refer to the previous suttas we have read, the Buddha has said that if 2 persons want to be reborn in the same place, 4 things must be the same. Faith is one, virtue is another, virtue or lack of virtue, and then generosity and wisdom. So here the Buddha has added one more, is learning. Learning is the knowledge of the Dhamma, much learning. So these 5 qualities. Also in some other sutta, the Buddha said if we want to repay our parents' kindness, we should teach them 4 things. One, to bring them to have faith in the triple gem, Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. The second one is teach them to cultivate virtue or moral conduct. The third is teach them to be generous and like to be generous. And then the fourth, teach them to have wisdom by exposing them to the Dhamma. So the Buddha says, if we teach our parents these 4 things, then we repay our parents' kindness, which is very hard to repay. In fact, the Buddha says, if you teach them these 4 things, then you more than repay your parents' kindness. So those are the 4 things. But here the Buddha adds one more, much learning of the Dhamma. So if we have these 5 qualities, then we want to have a good human rebirth. We can have in the next life. Again, the monk possesses faith, virtue, learning, generosity, and wisdom. He hears that the gods of the heaven of the 4 great kings. Stop here for a moment. There is a sutta I forgot to mention, I think in the Anguttara Nikaya, where the Buddha says that 2 things are basic for rebirth back as a human being. One is charity or generosity, the other one is moral conduct or virtue. And the Buddha mentioned in that sutta that if a person develops these 2 things, generosity and moral conduct, to a very low degree, it's very likely that he comes back as a human being in the next birth, but with very little luck, not under good circumstances. And if he develops these 2 things, generosity and moral conduct, to a medium degree, very likely he will come back as a human being with much luck, with much under very favorable circumstances. He'll be born, for example, with a healthy body, looking good, and in a rich family, and he can make his fortune very easily. And then these 2 things, if he develops it to a high degree, generosity and moral conduct, then it's very likely that he will be reborn in heaven, the Buddha says. In other words, if a person does not develop generosity and this moral conduct, like a lot of humans don't do, then they have no chance of coming back as a human being or going to heaven. They'll be born in the woeful plains of rebirth. Okay, coming back to this paragraph 6. Again, the monk possesses faith, virtue, learning, generosity, and wisdom. He hears that the gods of the heaven of the four great kings are long-lived, beautiful, and enjoy great happiness. He thinks, oh, that on the dissolution of the body after death, I might reappear in the company of the gods of the heaven of the four great kings. He fixes his mind on that. This, monks, is the path, the way that leads to reappearance there. Again, the monk possesses faith, etc. He hears that the gods of the heaven of the 33, or the Yama gods, or the gods of the Tusita heaven, or the gods who delight in creating, or the gods who wield power over others' creations, are long-lived, beautiful, and enjoy great happiness. He thinks, oh, that on the dissolution of the body after death, I might reappear in the company of those gods. He fixes his mind on that. This, monks, is the path that leads. This is the path, the way that leads to reappearance there. So here, the Buddha is talking about taking rebirth in the sixth sensual desire realm. Every world system, there are three realms. The sensual desire realm, and then above that is the form realm, and above that is the formless realm. So in the sensual desire realm, all beings are dominated by sensual lust. So you have male and female beings. So there are 6 heavens there, and the Buddha says, if a person has these 5 qualities, and he aspires to be reborn in those heavens, he can referring back to the last sutta I mentioned, that a person who wants to be reborn as a human or a heavenly being needs to develop this generosity and moral conduct. So if that same person wants to be reborn in the heavens, then he has to practice these two to a high degree, generosity and moral conduct. Again, a monk possesses faith, etc. He hears that the Brahma of 1,000 is long-lived, beautiful, and enjoys great happiness. Now the Brahma of 1,000 abides intent on pervading a world system of 1,000 worlds, and he abides intent on pervading the beings that have reappeared there. Just as a man with good sight might take a gall nut in his hand and review it, so the Brahma of 1,000 abides intent on pervading a world system of 1,000 worlds, and he abides intent on pervading the beings that have reappeared there. The monk thinks, oh, that on the dissolution of the body after death, I might reappear in the company of the Brahma of 1,000. He fixes his mind on that. This, monks, is the path, the way that leads to reappearance there. Again, the monk possesses faith, etc. He hears that the Brahma of 2,000, the Brahma of 3,000, the Brahma of 4,000, the Brahma of 5,000 is long-lived, beautiful, and enjoys great happiness. Now the Brahma of 5,000 abides intent on pervading a world system of 5,000 worlds, and he abides intent on pervading the beings that have reappeared there. Just as a man with good sight might take 5 gall nuts in his hand and review them, so the Brahma of 5,000 abides intent on pervading a world system of 5,000 worlds, and he abides intent on pervading the beings that have reappeared there. The monk thinks, oh, that on the dissolution of the body after death, I might reappear in the company of the Brahma of 5,000. He fixes his mind on that. This, monks, is the path, the way that leads to reappearance there. Again, the monk possesses faith, etc. He hears that the Brahma of 10,000 is long-lived, beautiful, and enjoys great happiness. Now the Brahma of 10,000 abides intent on pervading a world system of 10,000 worlds, and he abides intent on pervading the beings that have reappeared there. Just as a fine beryl gem of purest water, 8-faceted, well-cut, lying on red brocade, glows, radiates, and shines. So the Brahma of 10,000 abides intent on pervading a world system of 10,000 worlds, and he abides intent on pervading the beings that have reappeared there. The monk thinks, oh, that on the dissolution of the body after death, I might reappear in the company of the Brahma of 10,000. He fixes his mind on that. This, monks, is the path, the way that leads to reappearance there. Again, the monk possesses faith, etc. he hears that the Brahma of 100,000 is long-lived, beautiful, and enjoys great happiness. Now the Brahma of 100,000 abides intent on pervading a world system of 100,000 worlds, and he abides intent on pervading the beings that have reappeared there. Just as an ornament of finest gold, very skillfully wrought in the furnace by a clever goldsmith, lying on red brocade, glows, radiates, and shines. So the Brahma of 100,000 abides intent on pervading a world system of 100,000 worlds, and he abides intent on pervading the beings that have reappeared there. The monk thinks, oh, that on the dissolution of the body after death, I might reappear in the company of the Brahma of 100,000. He fixes his mind on that. This, monks, is the path, the way that leads to reappearance there. Stop here for a moment. So here the Buddha is talking about the Brahma, the Brahma heaven. These Brahmas, they are beings in the lowest form realm. Just now I mentioned that the form realm is higher than the sensual desire realm. And generally, for a being to be reborn in the form realm, you have to attain the form or rupa jhana. You have to attain the rupa jhana, form jhana. And there are four stages, 4 levels of this jhana. First jhana, second jhana, third jhana, and fourth jhana. So Brahma is in the lowest, the first jhana. So one of the necessary conditions to be reborn as Brahma, I would assume that a person must have attained the first jhana. Besides having the faith and generosity and wisdom and all that. So the other thing is, as mentioned here, these Brahmas, they are beings of light. They are just like a ball of light, like the sun. But surprisingly, the brightness is much brighter than our sun. So here it talks about world system. The Buddha says every sun is one world system. Every sun. So every sun, every star that we see in the sky, there's a possibility that there are humans there. So the thing is so far away, we still haven't found that out. So the lowest Brahma, his light is so powerful, it can shine to 1,000 stars, can pervade, can go as far as 1,000 stars, 1,000 world systems are lighted up by this Brahma of 1,000. And the most powerful is a Brahma of 100,000. This Brahma of 100,000, his light is so powerful, it can reach 100,000 world systems, 100,000 stars. So those who have brighter light, I guess when they were human beings, they developed the first jhana to a higher degree. There's one sutta, the Buddha says that these heavenly beings, their psychic powers were not obtained in heaven. The psychic powers were all obtained on the human realm. So if you want to be a deva with a lot of powerful psychic power, then you have to work very hard now as a human being. Here is where we do the work, and then you are reborn in that heaven, having all that kind of psychic power, that bright light and all that. One thing about this, here you find the Buddha talks about the Brahma, and later books they talk about the Maha Brahma, and then they talk about the ministers of Brahma, Purohita Brahma, and then they also talk about Brahma's retinue, Parisaja Brahma. But here the Buddha does not mention about these Brahmas being divided into 3 levels. The only difference is the brightness. Okay, again the monk possesses faith, etc., virtue, etc. He hears that the gods of radiance, the gods of limited radiance, the gods of immeasurable radiance, the gods of streaming radiance, the gods of glory, the gods of limited glory, the gods of immeasurable glory, the gods of refulgent glory, the gods of great fruit, the Aviha gods, the Atapa gods, the Sudasa gods, the Sudasi gods, the Akanita gods are long-lived, beautiful, and enjoy great happiness. He thinks, oh, that on the dissolution of the body after death, I might reappear in the company of the gods. He fixes his mind on that. This, monks, is the path, the way that leads to reappearance there. I'll stop here for a moment. So here the Buddha is talking about the second jhana heaven, the third jhana heaven, and the fourth jhana heaven. The second jhana heaven is called the Abhasara, the gods of radiance. Radiance here is a translation for Abhasara. And here is mentioned that these gods of radiance, there are three levels. You have the limited radiance, the immeasurable radiance, and the streaming radiance. So this second jhana heaven, there are three levels. And the third jhana heaven is the gods of glory. Gods of limited, there are three levels. Limited glory, immeasurable glory, and refulgent glory. So the third jhana heaven, there are three levels. And then the fourth jhana heaven begins with these gods of great fruit. It's called the Vihapala heavens, Vihapala, gods of great fruit. Then after that, there are five, the Aviha, Atappa, Sudasa, Sudasi, and Akanita. These five belong to what is called the Suddhavasa, pure abodes. These Suddhavasa, only Anagamis are reborn there. If you are not an Anagamin, you cannot be reborn in these five heavens. So that means there are not many gods there. It's hard to be reborn there. And if you are reborn there, you after that, when you pass away, there are five. Why are there five levels there? Because there are some of them, they're born in the lower level of these five. After they pass away, they go to a higher level. After they pass away, they go to a higher. So some of them, they pass to five heavens before they enter Nibbana. Some they pass to four heavens and then enter Nibbana. Some three heavens. Some two, some one, and then they enter Nibbana. So these are the pure abodes that only Anagamins are reborn. And also, I like to mention here, later books like commentaries and all that, they added this Asanya Satta, the beings without perception. That means they only have a body but no perception and no consciousness. The commentaries and other books, they put them in this fourth jhana heaven. These beings, Asanya Satta, are mentioned by the Buddha in certain suttas, but the Buddha did not mention which level of heaven they are in. But it is possible that they might be in the fourth jhana heaven. Again, a monk possesses faith, virtue, etc. He hears that the gods of the base of infinite space, the gods of the base of infinite consciousness, the gods of the base of nothingness, the gods of the base of neither perception nor non-perception are long-lived, long-enduring, and enjoy great happiness. He thinks, that on the dissolution of the body after death might reappear in the company of the gods of the base of whatever. He fixes his mind on that, establishes it and develops it. These aspirations and this abiding of his, thus developed and cultivated, lead to his reappearance there. This, monks, is the path, the way that leads to reappearance there. Stop here for a moment. So this is talking about the four levels of the formless realm. The formless realm, you can only be reborn there if you have attained the formless jhanas, arupas. In the suttas they are called arupas. In the Visuddhimagga they call them arupa jhanas. So this you have to attain this these meditations, these arupas, where the mind opens up. Becomes a boundless space or boundless consciousness or nothingness or neither perception nor non-perception. Then only you can be reborn there. Again, the monk possesses faith, virtue, learning, generosity and wisdom. He thinks, that by realizing for myself with direct knowledge, I might here and now enter upon and abide in the liberation by mind and liberation by wisdom that are taintless with the destruction of the taints. And by realizing for himself with direct knowledge, he here and now enters upon and abides in the liberation by mind and liberation by wisdom that are taintless with the destruction of the taints. Monks, this monk does not reappear anywhere at all. That is what the Blessed One said. The monks were satisfied and delighted in the Blessed One's words. So this last part is the monk who aspires to attain Nibbana, and then he attains liberation by mind or liberation by wisdom, and so he attains Nibbana. But here the Buddha says he does not reappear anywhere at all, because Nibbana is the state where the six consciousnesses stop. The normal living being would have these six consciousness, the eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nose, tongue, body, mind consciousness. But in the state of parinibbana, after the Arahant passes away, these six consciousness stops. And because the Arahant has finished his work. Unlike what the Mahayana books say, the Arahant has not finished his work. So it's completely contradictory to the early suttas. So this sutta, the Buddha only mentions that if you have faith, learning, virtue, generosity and wisdom, you can aspire, make the wish to be reborn in all these good states. But the Buddha didn't say that there are other conditions that you must attain all these jhanas and rupa jhanas and all that, besides having these five conditions. Okay, I think we stop here for tonight. It depends. If you want to chant the 32 parts of the body, you can rearrange them anywhere, any order you want. But they have been put in this order because the first half of it, roughly, are the earth element, the harder parts of the body, and the second half are all the liquids. You see, like bile, phlegm, pus, blood, sweat, fat, tear, grease, spittle, snot, all of the joint, oil of the joint, urine. This refers to the liquid part. Shall we end here? There's no more question.